quite a while since I reviewed an IP camera. Now, back when I looked at this Foscam in 2012, it did VGA resolution, which was alright at the time. People nowadays, though, expect everything to be HD, and also a lot easier to set up. Something like this drop cam, apparently very easy to set up, but look at the price of it, and you might be dealing with a year-on-year contract on top of that as well. This is an alternative, perhaps. Let's find out. A Tenvis TH671 720p IP camera. And look at the price on this one, £43, or at least that's what people are selling it for on eBay at the moment. So, of course, I picked one up. Let's have a good look at it. Now, looking at the specs on the outside of the box, see H.264 on VIF NVR. I don't know what that is. HD 720p, know what that is. P2P free. Does that mean it's free or it doesn't have it? DDNS, same with that one. SD card, I don't know what one of those is. And motion detection. Alright, well, let's see how that works. Now, looking at this side, you see there's apps on the right for the App Store and Google Play. That's the model number on the left, TH671. And you see it's the UK version with the dot on the back. The packaging's alright, actually, not bad at all. Quite stylish, I suppose, modern. Apart from quite a few little mistakes here. Look at this. Aluminous holder. Is that aluminous or aluminium? I don't know. And there's a few other little things on there as well. Anyway, let's have a look inside the box. Looks like the Enterprise in there. Let's just take that out. And I'll go through the different things that you get inside here. Let's not do a proper unboxing. We'll skip on a little bit and then we'll go through them. Okay, so we've got some wall plug things there with screws. So if you want to attach it to the wall. So on the bottom of this, you can see there's the appropriate screw holes there. This thing is aluminium, I'm going to call it, or aluminum if you're US, but not aluminum, or whatever they said. Take that black bit off there, that plastic bit, we don't need that. I'm just going to use it on this base here. Quite a heavy thing, that. Quite good. So there's the camera itself, you can see. It's sort of metal bodied, this. It looks plastic, but it feels cool to the touch, so definitely some sort of metal going on there. Take that lens protector off. You see we've got a microphone hole at the bottom there, an LED, a light sensor. These little clips on the side are what holds it into that mount. That's where your micro SD card goes. And on the bottom, that's where the power comes in through a micro USB. Little speaker on the back there as well, and a reset hole. Let's hope we don't have to press the reset button. Now, the way it fits in this thing, you just click it in there and it attaches to the mount. Actually, that's, I think, a lot like the drop cam system, looking at the pictures, but I don't have one to test. It's a bit of a copy, I suppose. This is my UK USB plug thing, but you can use any old USB. It's 1 amp, typical USB 5 volt charge thingamajig. That's the lead. Plug it in there, as you'd expect. The other end of that will go in the camera. I'm not going to plug it in just yet. We'll have a look at the instructions, because sometimes you've got to do these things in the right order. Oh, look, the 1990's called, and they want their 8cm CD back. Right, so here's the quick start guide. Looks pretty quick. Basically just 3 steps, although those steps do incorporate other steps, so it's a bit of a sneaky trick, that. Okay, well, let's get this going. I don't think we need that. Let's get rid of that. Now, first thing, download the app from the App Store. I'm going to do it on iOS. I'd imagine it looks very similar on Android, but I'm just going to do it the once on this. Ask me to send push notifications. I'll need that, I suppose, on this one. Got to set up an account. It's free. Just enter an email and a password. So I've done that now. I'm going to skip past that, and this is what we're greeted with. So we'll plug in the camera now. I think this is the right time, looking at the manual. I've got the other end plugged into the wall, so the power's supplied to that. After a short while, you see that blue light flashing, and let's try and get this going. So we'll add a camera. Right, nothing going on there, but notice down at the bottom, little thing pops up in a second, no camera, question mark. Yeah, well, I do have a camera, but to add it, I'd click that plus there. A few little things here. Very simple setup, really. You have to just pick the model, TH671. It's not a George Lucas film, it's an IP camera. Click OK to that one, and the bottom, start configuring. And it's just telling me now to quit out of this, go into my usual Wi-Fi setup thingamajig, connect to the camera itself, which will show up here somewhere. There it is. Shortly afterwards, you get a little tick on that, and now I've just got to go back into the application again, the Tenvis setup app, and carry on with that. So we'll just jump back into that. I've created an account. I've got a sort of password and things for my Wi-Fi there. So I've entered that. I'll speed this along a bit because it does a bit more whizzing than I'm showing you now. I just want to fast forward a little bit because that sort of went on a bit long. And there we go, that's it. Now believe it or not, that is the whole configuration set up. We are now ready to go. All I'm doing here though is I'm just going to give it a different name. I'm going to call it Tenvis rather than the standard camera. Give it a different password as well so everyone can't just log into it. And that's it. Right, so there we go. Now I've got the little Luigi statuette on the left here. Obviously it's not designed for filming something so close. It's not autofocus, but it's just to give you an idea as to what's going on. Moving it back and forth, you can see there that's the kind of in and out. Just to give you an idea of the lag on this, I am doing it all over Wi-Fi at the moment, but I'll switch to 3G in a bit just to show you that you can connect to this outside of the house, outside of the same Wi-Fi network. Now here's how you get into the different parts of the program. Down at the bottom, if you have it in portrait mode, you get these little icons. The top one obviously takes a still, and then you can do things with that still. If you go into this one here, notice the lack of response on some of these key presses. This is a bit of a dodgy application. But once you get your still, you can then save it into your photo library or email it to people, that kind of thing. So just click OK to that. So I've saved that into my photo library now. Let's move on to the next thing. That little speaker at the bottom, there's a little bit of a bug here. It keeps turning itself back on. That lets you hear what the camera can hear at the other end, transmits it over to this app. So you can hear what's going on at home when you're away from home. That one on the left there, click that one and you can speak to the camera from your remote location.
Good afternoon, burglars. Can you please get out of my house? I would appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Definitely not the best sound quality. Now this cloud icon should enable me to download any files that have been saved to the micro SD card I've inserted inside the camera, but it doesn't recognise it and tells me to insert a Mirco SD. I'm assuming that is a micro SD card. Now these icons around the edge would control a camera that could be moved remotely, although this is a fixed camera, so of course they don't work with this one. Now, I just wanted to show you how the camera copes in low light, so I'll just show you my hand moving up and down just to show you it's a live image. Turn off the light switch in the room, and once I've adjusted the camera's exposure a bit on the camera I'm taking this shot with, you can see that the camera is illuminating the scene using infrared illumination, so it can effectively see in the dark. Now I'll just switch the light back on and just look at the front of the camera on the right there. I'll switch the lights off again and you can see the LEDs come on automatically when it gets to a low light situation. That blue LED is on all the time at the bottom, by the way. Now in this scene, look at the top of the phone. Notice I'm on 3G here. I'm not on Wi-Fi anymore, Dorothy. And you can see that we're still connected up. So if I was at work, I could see what was going on at my home or any other remote location as long as I've got a decent 3G or 4G signal, I suppose. Look at the date at the top right. It's definitely not 1970, so I need to fix that. I thought I'd go into the settings. There's a little cog here. If you click on that, these are the different settings options we've got. So I'll just talk you down these. The top one, motion detection. Set the sensitivity of the motion detection. The idea is the camera will see the motion and record a little file to that SD card, supposedly, but I just can't get it to work. Enable email alert. That should send you an email when it sees motion. Again, cannot get it to work. Unfortunately, none of my email accounts seem to be compatible with this, and I get the email password is error message, which is an error message in itself. So yeah, can't do the email, can't do motion detection. Looking at the Mirco SD again, you can pick two different things. It will record if it's an alarm, I presume that's motion detection, or full time, which presumably it just records over and over again, just like a dash cam. Just can't get it to work. It won't accept any of my SD cards. Wi-Fi networks, you can choose the Wi-Fi network you want the camera to connect to. Obviously, video flip will flip the video upside down, but you can rotate the camera in its case as well, so you might not need that. Video quality, I've got it on high, but if you had a slower Wi-Fi or a bad connection or something, you might want to knock it down a bit, but I haven't done it to max because that just seemed a bit extreme. And there's some things about the camera. Look, it's got the codes on there. You could probably get into my camera if you want, but as I'm speaking to you, it's now unplugged and won't be used again. But there you go, that's the detail of the camera. And look, it could see what was on the SD card there as well. It knew how much space there was on it, so it knows it's in there. You can share the camera with a friend if they've got an account with the Tenvis thing, or anyone you want to, which is probably not advisable, and it recommends you might not want to do that. I'll show you where the shared cameras are though. You can get to them in the application itself. If you go into this one here, public cameras, those are other people's cameras. Now, it took a while to load in those thumbnails. I don't think they're ever going to load, to be honest. This whole app is a bit buggy, as you see. It's crashed out there completely. So let's just go back into that again. Now I thought I'll just try and play one of the ones off the front screen, but no, not a lot happens. Just get that spinning timer there. So really a very flaky application. Now notice though, I unplugged the camera, plugged it back in, and look at the date at the top right. It's correct. However, the time's wrong. It isn't 11:30, it's 4:30, as you can see in the middle of my phone. It must be using the UTC time rather than the local time. It's just pulling it off the internet. Now I mentioned you can rotate the camera in its mount. That is very handy because I just put the camera on the side of this thing in the garage. I didn't mount it properly, just shoved it behind there, spun the camera around. And I'll just show you what what my iPhone can see in the garage. So this is what it looks like. It's a bit of a mess, I admit. There's loads of stuff going to the tip the next day, honestly. But that's what that looks like. And that's what it looks like from the IP camera. So that's the sort of angle of view you get out of that rather than just looking at something close up. Switching off the lights. Now there's still a bit of light on here. I've got one spotlight on, so we've just gone black and white. It's nice and sharp. Switch the spotlights off that I've got in the garage. That's no light at all now. And that's what that looks like. A bit grainy, but you can see, and you can't see anything at all. I mean, that's what the iPhone sees in the same conditions. Right, let's just test out the microphone on the camera itself.
Okay, to give you a bit more of an idea about the sound performance, I'm talking to the microphone now. Also, I've put the reel-to-reel on so you can see the movement there, because the camera does have a tendency to freeze frame every now and then.
Right, so if you didn't catch that, I'm not surprised because the microphone on this camera is terrible. But the idea was I was trying to say that I'm talking to the camera, I've got the reel-to-reel going so you can see when the freeze frames occur, because this camera does have a tendency to freeze frame every now and then. I've now turned off the lights in one half of the room, and that's what that looks like, although there are some lights down the other end. Quite like this look. It looks like something that they've found in one of those hatches in Lost, some sort of old videotape from the 70s where there's some guy explaining how everything works, then perhaps they just lose it just before they find the important part. Anyway, I'll switch off the light at the other end of the room just to give you a proper idea what things look like completely in the dark. I can't see anything in these conditions, but this is what the camera can see. So that's what that looks like and sounds like, which was pretty bad, wasn't it? The sound, not the video. The video's okay. Now, if you've got some crazy idea about using this as a spy camera, just forget it immediately. For one thing, it's got that blue LED on the front of the camera all the time, and then when it's in the dark, it's got these LEDs round the lens. And also, just have a listen to this. Those clicks you could hear were the IR cut filter being activated and deactivated. Now, if you plan on using this camera inside your house to film outside, well, again, not a good idea in the dark, because those IR LEDs automatically come on in low light and they'll just reflect back off the glass and you won't be able to see anything. Now, somebody thought it'd be a nice idea if you could switch those off in the application, but they wrote to the manufacturer and this is the response that came back, which definitely indicates they don't have any plans to offer that feature, which is a shame because I took the camera, put it outside, and this is what it could see in pitch black in my garden, which is pretty impressive. And if you could deactivate the IR LEDs on the camera, then you could put an IR emitter, a waterproof one, on the wall in your garden, because of course the camera isn't waterproof. You could keep that inside looking out, and you could use the IR LEDs to illuminate the outside of your house. Now, if you're wondering what happened to that little CD, I did decide to put it into the computer. These are the files that are on it, which are basically the manuals and the apps or links to them, but also there's a little tool for the PC and the Mac, and if you click on that, this screen comes on, which is supposed to do something. Again, didn't, so don't really know what that is, but doesn't really matter. The positives: the camera is cheap, it's only 40 odd quid, it's got 720p video, it's very quick to set up, it's got a simple effective mount, and it's got that nighttime illumination for interiors only, but it does work quite well if you're using it in those situations. Now, my reviews are very much consumer based. It's how your average person would cope with a product after getting it home, opening it up and trying to use it. I'm not looking at things like some sort of IT professional or expert, because I'm not. I just want to know how easy and well something works. And to be honest, this had quite a few issues. Out of the box, I could not get the email alerts working with any of my email providers. Perhaps it's something to do with SSL certificates. I've got no idea, and I'm not interested in finding out. It just didn't work straight away. I can't get the camera to write to its inbuilt SD card. I've got no idea what that's about. The app's pretty bug-ridden. It tends to crash out and have lots of issues. You can't turn those IR lights off, which is unfortunate because it limits the kind of places where you can put the camera. And it's got a poor microphone, and for that matter, it's got a poor quality speaker as well. Now, those negatives don't make the camera a complete washout. After all, it is a cheap 720p camera that you can put in your house and keep an eye on what's going on inside when you're out and about, and it's very easy to set up. So if you want to get hold of one, there are links in the video description, but if you need some of those features that I mentioned that I couldn't get working on this camera, then you're probably better off looking elsewhere than fiddling around with this trying to get them working, because it might never happen. Anyway, that's it for the moment. As always, thanks for watching.